Hi everybody and welcome to this night's live broadcast. With me tonight I have Fredrick and Daniel from Kenya, who works for Nuawe, an LGBT organization, and they work as LGBT activists. They visited Denmark a couple of weeks ago as part of our gender and identity project, where they also joined the Copenhagen Pride. And they will introduce themselves in just a minute. I will just remember all of you to ask questions via the Q&A. But for now, just relax, sit back and listen to Fred and Daniel introduce themselves and tell about their work in Kenya and about advocacy and LGBT rights in Kenya. So, Fred and Daniel, you're up.
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Picho Nyango. I'm the Executive Director for Nyanza Rift Valley Western Kenya LGBTI Coalition that works with almost 23 organizations in the western part of Kenya. It's almost 8 hours drive from Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya. So we are located in Kisumu. Kisumu is a small city within the rural and peri-urban. So we work with LGBT who are within the rural and peri-urban in western part of Kenya. Fred also can introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Fredrick Odhiambo from Kenya. We work with Daniel. I'm the administrator at Nyarwek.
So specifically, Nyarwek is an LGBT coalition that works with 23 organizations, and it was started in 2009. And the main reason it was started was specifically to fight for the rights and be a voice for the LGBT within Western Kenya. Generally, as we all know, it's illegal for you to be an LGBT, to express yourself as an LGBT in Kenya due to stigma and discrimination that we are facing, and the law, the legal framework also doesn't support that. So we tried our level best to make sure that the LGBT individuals come together. We create safe space first. The safe space is for express themselves as LGBT individuals. And as Nyawek, we have 4 thematic areas that we are working with. We are working with coordination and linkages. We coordinate 23 organizations which are in the peri-urban, urban, and in the rural in the Western Kenya. We coordinate the activity. Through the coordination and linkages, we do sports, we do theater arts, festivals, and we mobilize the members so that they can come together so that they can share their experiences. The person within the urban, because of being that is exposed enough, then how best is he sharing his experiences of an LGBT with the person within the rural who is quite in a low esteem and cannot express himself because he's staying with his family. We also work online with human rights. On the human rights, what we are doing specifically, we are trying to look at the constitution. We have a promulgated constitution and a very progressive constitution under Article 4 of the Bill of Rights. So we are trying to make sure that the LGBT are understanding their rights as LGBT and they cannot be violated with any other person, whichever case. We're also working on security coming in that because of the stigma, because of discrimination and religion and culture and tradition that is affecting the LGBT, we are trying to look at the security of the LGBT is to match to the path. In relation for you as an individual, how best are you making sure that you can be self-motivated and have yourself as a security? Because you have documented cases within the security department of LGBT committing suicide. We have documented cases of LGBT being violated, being excommunicated, being chased out from the house. In school, they cannot get their learning because of that, being that their sexuality. So in that, we are trying under the human rights component to make sure we highlight all this in the relation to the constitution that we promulgated. We're also working in relation to health, being that men who have sex with men contribute to almost 13.5 HIV prevalences in Kenya. So it's our obligations to make sure that we are getting the right information. And this is mainly because of the stigma and discrimination within the health fraternity. They cannot get the health services as it deserves because of their sexual orientation. In that somebody will go to the hospital, and when he goes to the hospital to express himself, he's suffering from, for example, anal prolapse. Anal prolapse is anal what? which, for example, you're suffering from anal problem and you cannot get treatment because the doctor or the nurse within the hospital will discriminate you according to your sexuality. So we are trying our level best as an organization to sensitize the doctors and to sensitize the health service providers. We are working on research and documentation. Under research and documentation is making sure we have evidence-based intervention so that we can look at how best are we pushing on policy on realignment. Then Fred add on the organization development.
As a network also, we feel that it's so important to build the capacity of our staffs and the leadership of the 23 organizations that we're working with. One of the things that we've managed to achieve is we've tried to capacity build leadership of 23 organizations on proposal writing, report writing. How do they handle case issues wherever there's a violation? How do they respond to people who are being threatened in the society? Within us, we have a component of also developing our team, because when we are not powerful enough, when we are not capacity built enough, we don't have that courage or conviction to go and face these challenges like the LGBTI cases in the society. Again, one big challenge in relation to capacity building, you see most of our member groups that we rely on or that we coordinate their activities, they are based in rural and only few are within the urban setup. So in the rural, we have cultural issues dominating everything. You see, in our traditions, it is being viewed that homosexuality is something that is a Western issue, is a Western propaganda. So we learned it, and the way we learned it, we are also able to unlearn it. So we've been facing a lot of challenges because there we are dealing with the real parents. We are facing issues from the real parents of these people, from a society, an entire society that lacks understanding. So as we approach as we capacity build our people, we also meet the entire population, because our main interest is just to change the mindset of those who think otherwise.
So to add on specifically, we will talk of challenges, but also Nyawek as an organization, we have tried our level best to have 3 approaches that we are reaching out to our community. The first approach that we are working with is known to unknown approach. Within known to unknown approach, what it means that you, as a person who is from the general community, if he doesn't understand, then we work from the perception of what you're understanding, then to make you understand and gain the knowledge. So in such a way of known to unknown approach comes in is that it has worked very well with the religious leaders. Apart from you having the Bible as the final decision that you're working with, how best are you contextualizing the Bible into relations to the general or into these generations? Considering having several verses within the Bible were written almost 2,000 years ago. In that context, the Bible was being talked to a certain group. What if we compare to this generation that we are in? So we are trying also to reach out to the religious leaders, and currently we have a total of 103 religious leaders that we have sensitized specifically on issues of LGBT, and we have 40 who are very pro and reaching with others religious leaders. Also within the unknown approach, we have really tried to work with the traditional cultural elders, because it's a culture for you as a human being or as an LGBT, as a man or as a woman within the Luo community, which is quite much prone with where we are dominating from. When you reach the age of 18 years, then you're supposed to get married. And for you as an LGBT, either you are a man or a woman, then it forces you to get married. Once you're getting married, you're doing it for the societal expression. So it's really a challenge to most of the LGBT, because they're doing this specifically to make sure that they're pleased their moms, they're pleased their dads, they're pleased their grandmothers, and not doing it because it's their feeling of what they feel. So we have really tried specifically to talk with the cultural leaders and traditional leaders to understand how this one was happening within the culture and the context. It's quite hard for you to decide of somebody's own sexual orientations of him supposed to do because of pleasing you under the known to unknown approach. Then we have the human rights approach. The human rights approach is challenging the legal framework And within the legal framework, we have trained our members to be paralegal, to follow up issues of security that are happening within the community for justice to take place. Within the legal framework, we are working with the police in that, because we realize that the most perpetrators of the LGBT are usually the police. In case you have been violated and you go and report, then it will be quite a challenge, because the police, because of his religious background, his cultural background, will bring an next, and it will be hard for him to follow up with that case. So we are trying to make sure that we sensitize them so that they can understand of you and the obligation that they are having within the constitution to offer security for a citizen of Kenya. So as an organization, we've really tried, and currently we have a total of 60 police that we have sensitized within Western Kenya, and it's quite progressive, because we have 3 cases right now we are following within the legal framework. As a person who committed suicide and he was killed within the mob because he was an LGBT. Then we have another case of a man who was raped for correction because of he's an LGBT, and we are trying to see that it's quite progressive, because the police are really following up to these perpetrators for justice to take place. Although it's minimal, but we appreciate, because there is an effort in relations to curbing up this. Then we also have the cluster approach. Since we have the 23 members in 2002, all these 23 members combined together and sat down and looked at what their problems were. And they realized that the problems were cutting across. The problems that are facing LGBT in Western Kenya are issues of security, issues of health, issues of security, illiteracy, which means the level of education, because most of the LGBT within Western Kenya, they're staying with their grandmothers, they're staying with their parents who are paying them the fee, school fee. So if in case you have been realized you're an LGBT person, the parents immediately will evict you from the house. So after evicting you, the only thing you're remaining with is to go stay within the roads, within the street. So once you stay at the street, you will only survive to be a sex worker, specifically to bring something on the table. So through that, we are trying to look at it, that how best is it within the cluster approach. We brought all these people together, and since the members came together, then they divided themselves into 6 clusters. So as Nyawek, as an organization, we are coordinating the activity under the thematic area of 6 clusters. So the members have divided themselves to 6 clusters. In Kisumu, we have 6 organizations that we are working with. Then in Western Kenya, we have 3 organizations. It's a cluster. We have Rift cluster, then we have Siaya cluster, and we have Kisimigori cluster as an approach. We also have an approach that we are working with as a reproductive health. Under the reproductive health, within Kenya, we have Kenya National Strategic Plan, which was launched in 2014. And within the Kenya National Strategic Plan, they have articulated quite clearly of men who have sex with men to be on the high risk. So since it's a policy, it's a government document, we are trying to use this to advocate within the community. How best are you embracing the LGBT so that we can reduce the HIV prevalences? Kenya is among the 4th country across the world in relations to the corruption, coming into the issues of terrorists, coming into the issues of HIV. But how best are we, because we are also Kenyan and a human being, although we are LGBT. So how best are we combining together to fight all these issues of HIV? So there are several documents. And Kenya has a very clear structure. There is a national government and there is county government, which has devolved government. So as Kisumu, what we have done within the devolved government, we have really engaged with the Ministry of Health within the devolved government. We are part and parcel of the gender strategic plan, which means under the gender means that government is working with the youth, women, children, and vulnerable. So through the youth wing, we have tried our level best to mainstreaming and reaching out, making sure that with the people within the government are understanding the challenges, are understanding the issues, and are understanding the violations that the LGBT are going through. So that as a government and as a person who is a citizen in Kenya has the right and has the audacity so that it can be followed in case of anything that happens to him. We have several people who have been chased out and evicted from their rental houses. In such a way, a landlord will realize you have rented a house and you're an LGBT person, which means you're not bringing ladies in your house. Neither you are a lady, you're not bringing men in your house. You'll be evicted immediately. So we have also started a program specifically to sensitize the landlords and the bar owners and the local administration. Because since that the security of the Kenyan being that we are from the rural, you'll realize the first thing, if in case you have been perpetrated, you'll report to the chiefs. The chiefs, these are local administrations. So this person is a government employee. Is the one supposed to make sure that the constitutions and the law of government is quite really being implemented. So through that, you realize this person is discriminating you. If in case the landlord has evicted you from the house, the first stop you'll report to this chief, who is the local administration. By the time you report to him, he's the first person who will still discriminate you. So we have really tried to mobilize and try to sensitize. Currently, we have a total of 30 chiefs within Western Kenya that we have sensitized, and the LGBT are finding it that there is a safe space within their several homes. But the huge problem and the huge challenge that you are facing is to sensitize the family. Because you as an LGBT person or me as an LGBT person, I come from my family, which I have the nuclear family and I have the extended family. How best will you try and neither not convince, but make sure these people, by the time they realize you're an LGBT person, understands the challenges that you're going through. Many people have committed suicide and their self-esteem is quite low, specifically because of lack of support. And we thank God because of the organization and the coalition of offering the social spaces. Social spaces means we have a resource center within our organizations, and the resource center is specifically for the members and the students. Like, for example, I know you are all students that we are talking to. So if we have a PEMPOL program, then we can network and look at how best are you reaching out to the LGBT, not as me speaking, yes, as the leader, but also them speaking out their challenges and their issues. And it's a progress that we will be also discussing it with the Human in Action. How best is it we can look at and the engagement with the youths. The youth, specifically you as youth, also speaking with the youth from Kenya who are really facing these challenges. So at the resource center, although the network is so bad, but we are trying our level best of looking at it, how best is it we can network and look at all these challenges that the individual LGBT are facing. The most age group of the LGBT we are working with are from 18 years up to almost 35 years. The older age group are quite hard to get because of the challenge being, because of tradition, because of culture, they're forced themselves to get married. And since they're forced themselves to get married, people have really buried their head on not coming out as LGBT because there is no safe space for you to come out. The legal framework is not friendly. The culture, the tradition, and mainly the religious leaders who are quite so much fundamentalist and quite homophobic, who are really sharing issues of homophobic within as an LGBT persons. So generally within Kenya, we thank God because we are quite much a bit progressive on programming on relations to how best are we sensitizing. So the main approach that we are using also is in an inclusive approach. We are not working exclusively as LGBT, but we are working with the community so that the community doesn't portray me and take me as an abomination, but they also look at me as a human being. Before looking at my sexuality, then how best is somebody looking at me as a human being first and respecting my dignity so that it should not perpetrate me specifically because of my sexuality.
To add on what Daniel is saying concerning the inclusive approach, you see, we realize that when we try to isolate ourselves, we make it worse for our own selves. So when there are issues to do with the youths, we try to champion for our youths, the LGBTI youths, also to participate in certain activities. Then when there was, for instance, the demonstration for insecurity in this region, we participated fully. When women were fighting for gender equality, we also participated and we were in forefront to champion for the rights. When some villages are crying for water, we cry with them. So you see, at that point, the there's something they see in an LGBTI, like there's something they see beyond your sexuality. But you see, when each and every time you come across someone, your parent, your dad, your siblings, your society, your community, and what they see is only your sexuality, it becomes so wrong and it becomes difficult for an LGBTI person to survive. Again, we've been trying this approach of sensitizing, having like a club called PFLAG, the parents and friends of lesbians and gays. So that because most of the LGBTI, they already have the information, and some have because there is self-stigma, but at some point you'll find that most of the LGBTI community who have engaged with us and who have engaged in activities, there's that acceptance, the self-acceptance, and at least it has helped in reducing self-stigma. So now the challenge is, this person is safe at the Nyawek Resource Center. This person is safe when Fred is around him. What if he'll be going back to his place of residence? What will happen when he's going to see his mom or his dad? What will happen when he meets his friend who are not of the same sexuality? So that's why we decided to have these friends of LGBT. We sensitize them. We just have an informal dialogue so that we enhance the approach of known to unknown, so that at least we make we have a common understanding, and we bring the knowledge and sense into them by challenging this word of you guys were influenced by the Western culture, and so please spare us out of this. Please don't bring this homosexuality where we stay. Please don't bring this homosexuality, you'll influence our children. Please don't come here with this thing, you'll affect everything. And you see, people, it's just about the understanding, because the issue with the mind, there's this mindset that you see everything. When someone sees a gay person, when someone sees gay person or lesbian, he only sees the sex part of it, that there's someone who involves himself in maybe sodomy or some sort of thing. So this is a sex toy, or there's someone who's the only agenda that he has is only sex. But you're saying, no, these guys, there are some who have talents, so we help them nurture those talents. There are some who can do other things that they have not realized. We help them realize their potential. Yeah.
I'll talk of a very important issue, which I believe each and everyone is most to hear. Recently, we had a visit from the Most and His Highness, His Excellency Barack Obama, who is also Kenyan, and he really talked about the issues of homosexuality. I believe it would be quite best for me also to expound of that. Before Obama visit, there were so many culminating issues which were coming up with our members of parliament. There are so many issues which were coming up with our people within the government, specifically rebuking and saying that Obama, once you come to Kenya, don't speak about the issues of homosexuality. That thing is being done in the United States, but it's not in Kenya. So if you are coming to Kenya, talk about any other issues, but not the issues of homosexuality. Through that, before Obama coming, we have our Vice President, who specifically is Honorable William Ruto, who stated it quite clearly: homosexuals has no space in Kenya. We have several MPs who even had a riot. There is a demonstration which happened almost in 6th of July. And the religious leaders came together and they went and demonstrated in the Nairobi street, which is the capital city of Kenya, specifically to state and to show the President Obama that they are real men. They even needed to strip naked so that the Obama should not come and speak about the issues of homosexuality. He came to Kenya, we appreciate, he's an African, and after coming to Kenya, he spoke about it very clearly. By the time he spoke about the issues of equality and equality to all, and the state has no right, whichever, to discriminate somebody in relation of his sexual orientation. We have our president, who is His Excellency Jomo Kenyatta, Uhuru Kenyatta, who specifically stated it and say it's a non-issue. We thank God as LGBT community because he said it's a non-issue. The reason why he says it's a non-issue, it was politically. Politically because people from the government had already rebuked the issues of homosexuality. We didn't expect the president to speak positively in relations to issues of homosexuality in Kenya. Because currently in 2017, we'll be having our election. He'll come and start lobbying for people to give him the votes. If in case he could have spoke positive in relations to homosexuality, then at his position for being the president and still run to the next seat, how will his position? So for him to say it's a non-issue, he said it's a non-issue in that Kenya still has many things to discuss. We have issues of corruption to discuss. Me as an LGBT, I'm also being affected with corruption. We have terrorists to discuss. Me as an LGBT, I'm also being affected with terrorists. We have issues of health to discuss. Me as an LGBT person, I'm also being affected with that. So it was quite high. And we thank God because after the Obama speech, either the president's speech, as LGBT community in Kenya, we were very worried knowing that there could be violations and people could have been beaten, people could have been chased out of the house, and nobody did that specifically because the president neutralizes the ground. Neutralizes the ground that issues of homosexuality is not an issue in Kenya. We as an LGBT knows that it's an issue. It's an issue because our sisters and our brothers who are LGBT are being butchered. Our sisters and our brothers who are LGBT are committing suicide. Our sisters and our brothers who are LGBT cannot get education because of their sexuality. In Western Kenya, there is a school, a high school, which chased away and suspended 14 students, specifically because they were having a debate in school of issues of homosexuality. As we know, usually during the debate, there is a proposer side and there is opposer side. So then it came in for the proposer side, who were supporting the issues of homosexuals, then took the day. The head teacher and the teacher from the deputy head teacher called all these 15 who were really discussing in the motion, and they were expelled from school. Look at that. They were only discussing the issues of homosexuality, which means that they were not saying that they are homosexuals, and they were expelled from school. So we are looking at all these challenges in relations to all this, and we thank God because as LGBT currently, there is a multi-tier approach, a strategy that the Kenya as a whole is using. There is a coordinative response because we have the Gay and Lesbian Coalition of Kenya, which is the national coalition. We have Nyanza, Rift Valley, Western Kenya, LGBTI coalition, which is a regional coalition. We also have an organization in Mombasa, which is PEMA Kenya. And specifically, we are collecting all our synergies. And we have really tried in Kenya to mainstream. Mainstream means we are trying our level best to work really hard with the government. And what we are doing with the government, like for example, we are in the committee of Western Kenya Human Rights Defenders Network, which is documenting and articulating all the issues of human rights. We are also in the committee of the health within the ministry. So all this we are mainstreaming so that by the time there is an issue that is coming up, then we have supporters who we are working with to try and really articulate those issues that is affecting us. So we really look at it in Kenya in the level of advocacy. We are quite progressive within Eastern Africa, specifically because of the mechanism we have put place and working inclusively, not exclusively, one. The second thing is taking sure that the approaches we are using is for the benefit of the LGBT and making sure we are increasing the knowledge of the individual who is a community so that they're also feeling that I'm also part of the community. I'm not an abomination. I'm not something who came from another planet. I wasn't taught within the Western, but it's something that is within me and I feel because of the love and compassion that I'm feeling. So, yeah. Eva.
Alex from Germany. who asks, how does the future look for LGBT rights in Kenya? And what about your organization? What will you do in the future?
On the future of the LGBT in Kenya. The future of LGBT in Kenya is quite really on the positive, because currently what we are looking at and what we appreciate is the inclusive approach that we are doing. Specifically as Nyawe, looking at the several committees that we have engaged with, we have really tried to mainstream as a main thematic areas. All our thematic areas, we have the government that we are working with. We are in the committee of the Kenya National Strategic Plan of Implementation. We are in the committee of the Ministry of Gender and Social Services. We are in the committee of the Kisumu Development, Live Development. We are in the committee of National Western Kenya Human Rights Defenders Network. We are all this committee, we are trying to make sure we are mainstreaming. Mainstreaming means we are sharing the knowledge of us being LGBT. And it's coming out clear being that currently in Kenya, people have started understanding who an LGBT person is, because the knowledge has been enhanced. And since the knowledge is enhanced, we are looking at the issues of the decree process. Under Article 162 to 165 in the Penal Code. Penal Code is a rule of the government. The rule that the Kenya is using is a law which is part and parcel of the Constitution. So within the Penal Code, the same-sex act is criminalized. In Kenya, the perception of the people, they understand that you to express yourself as an LGBT, you are criminalized. Not understanding the only part which is criminalized is the sex act. That's why you'll realize in Kenya it's quite hard to challenge. So we are trying to make sure that it's not us who are challenging, but mainstreaming and having many allies. The women movement, we are joining. We are joining the youth movement. We are joining the disabled movement. So that it's not our issue, but it's everyone's issue. So as Kenya, currently we are trying to make it that for you to beat or to overcome you yourself as an LGBT person, to be discriminated, then somebody else also feel that discrimination. But I should not feel as if now I'm an LGBT, I feel that my fellow LGBT have been discriminated. We want to make it an issue in that if you're discriminated in the public, then you have the supporters who are the general community, who are the heterosexuals. So that's where in Kenya we are looking at it, there is a hope, because people really expected by the time Obama was coming, for him to speak about the issues of LGBT or homosexuals, then we knew that there could be that many people could have been evicted from their houses. In Western Kenya, we didn't document any eviction, because then we realized right now, even a small child, once you mention Obama, he will tell you homosexual, which means right now there is a word to everyone. And so long as you know the word, then how, as my organization, Nyarwe, we are helping out to unpack what you doesn't know. Because many people have usually understood the LGBT are only in relations to sex. It's not sex. That is in relations for you expressing your love, your feelings, your affections, your emotions. All these have not even come to sex. Sex is the last option. So we are trying to make sure the community understands that sex is usually the last option to an LGBT person. So we are seeing at it there is hope specifically for that.
Again, on the future, we, as an organization, we hope against all hopes that Kenya will be a better place for all LGBTI persons who are citizens of this country, because we believe in equity and equality, and we are thinking of like, we are not asking government or anybody for a special right. We are moving towards an end where we want everyone to see an LGBTI as just any other citizen who might be your enemy or your friend. I think the kind of work we're doing and the approaches that we are employing We hope that Kenya will be the best place for all LGBTI. So Ugandans will be chased and told to take that Kenyan culture away from here. So,
okay,
Yes,
I just
yeah.
got, since you mentioned Obama, and Jane from the UK would like to know, because you seem to suggest that Obama's speech had a negative impact on your LGBT community. So Jane asks, what do you think Obama should have done?
Obama has the right, because it was like a trend. Anywhere in Africa that he went, the issue was speaking was equality and equity. So for him to come to Kenya, it wasn't much that special for us, not as an LGBT, to tell him not to speak. We left it as an LGBT because it was a discussion even before Obama coming. We had several people who were LGBT who were part of the people who were suggesting about how the speech could look like. Is he supposed to speak about LGBT? And in Kenya, we were ready. It wasn't negative. It was very, very positive, because he spoke of equity and equality, which means he was telling the state, you have no right to discriminate an individual who is a citizen of Kenya on his issues of being, or in regardless of his sexual orientation, which it was a very clear thing, because he said, as an LGBT person, also obey the traffic rules. As an LGBT person, obey the law. Why should you discriminate that person because of his sexuality? It was positive to us at the same in relations to, because he made it for the state to realize that there is also issues which are happening down here. LGBT are being killed, LGBT are being raped, LGBT are being denied health services, LGBT are being denied justice in case of rape, LGBT are being discriminated, they're being evicted from houses. How best is it that the state is supposed to secure the right of the LGBT, which is the right to all? Because even the LGBT person signs the constitution. So he was trying to highlight for the government of Kenya to realize that LGBT are also in Kenya. What we are saying, Obama's speech was very positive. Being an African and being a Black American, it was very positive because people identified with him to be an African. And for him to come and state the issue of homosexuality, then it was a positive, because before people were saying that thing is a Western thing and is a US thing, it's not a Kenyan thing. So once you're coming, don't talk about it. But through that, he went an extent of talking about it. So it was really positive, because it helps up about the visibility. The visibility is, even currently right now, even the grandmother, once you talk of Obama, you'll talk about homosexuality. And that's the start. The start in relation for us to start the conversation within our houses. In Africa, it's an abomination for you to talk about sex. Parents fear to talk about sex with their adolescent children. So if the grandma can talk about Obama and talk about homosexual, is an avenue for me as an LGBT to start discussing it and unpacking what they doesn't understand. So for us, it's very positive for him to speak about the issues of homosexual as a Kenyan. Yes, Eva?
Yeah, because now I just got another one. Jean from France would like you to tell you something about how the media influences the people's mindset about LGBT in Kenya. Does the media influence in a negative way or in a positive way?
To talk about the media, a media or a journalist person usually gets what is juicy for his story. And generally, even across the world, media is usually influential. Influential in such a way, in Kenya, media have tried to play in a positive way. At the same time, we can't say in a negative way. We have several, there was a link of, even if you go to the YouTube and you say the invisible bridge. The invisible bridge It was a media, a journalist who came to our organization and reached to us, and we were talking about the issues of HIV that is affecting men who have sex with men. And it was really portrayed. There is an invisible bridge. If you get through the YouTube, you'll see part 1, part 2, and part 3. This was portraying the HIV, which is a pandemic to the men who have sex with men. Media portrayed a very positive story in relation to looking at it. How do we looking at this bridging population? Media has played a role for the people to be killed specifically by airing out what negatively about the LGBT. Negatively about the LGBT being a Western, negatively about the LGBT being a choice. You choose to be an homosexual, which I cannot say that media plays negative or positive. It depends which kind of media that you engage with. There is a mainstream media that if in case they want to air out your issue, then they look at the point of the story being a selling story. So coming into a selling story, for her or him who is a journalist who is going to take up your story, then come in that is going to be portrayed within the media, how best is it going to be accepted? Or how best is it going to be within or reflected within the community? So media have played twice. It had played negatively on some of the LGBT, because immediately after the invisible bridge was shown, our lives were in danger. Reason being, the people who were not understanding issues of homosexuals or LGBT, they were coming in and they were looking for us, mainly to stone us, mainly to lynch us. But the people who are understanding say it's high time and very important that we should engage with the community and the LGBT community so that we can understand them. So it plays both roles, positive and negative. So on the media part, it usually depends. We engage in with medias and organizations, but we have really tried to sensitize them. We have the gutter press, the mainstream media that we are engaging with, but we are sensitizing them because I'm also a human being. So by the time you are portraying it a negative, then you are killing somebody. You're making somebody to die, specifically because of how will you share your story. At the cost, media has really played it quite in the negative in relation of making people and exposing people who are LGBT to their parents and to their fathers and to their mothers, who it has led to an extent of somebody being evicted from the house. Somebody who being is chased away and is cannot be paid any fee because of that. So specifically, media have played a positive role at the same time a negative role.
Yeah, I'll talk on the negative role because I'm one person who is not happy with the way our Kenyan media carries out themselves. In terms of capacity, I don't think their capacity have been built enough to make a society or to play a role that they really intend to, or the role which they're supposed to play. You see, when a media, a national TV station at a police station shows a video of a transgender who policemen were trying to confirm what he or she is. He was stripped naked and they were showing it live, and this is someone who is still in the closet. What were they trying to do? So I think, and you see, to them, they believe that those stories that sells are bad stories that affects someone who is being shown on the TV or is being talked about on the radio. So those bad stories that affect us makes them sell. So by the time they're doing that for their own benefit, they're not considering what the other person at the other end is feeling. What are the danger of that thing that they have highlighted? What are the danger of that story that they have written on the magazine? Something of the sort. But to me, I think we should not also avoid them because they are playing a critical role of informing the society. But is a step. We can't just trust them at once with our information because they're dangerous people. They can make you or break you.
Okay, then I have a question from Sophie from Denmark, who asks you, where do you find your strength as LGBT activists to be so outspoken What inspires you and what keeps you going?
On my end, where I find my strength is specifically because of the support that I'm getting from my family. My father and my parents know that I'm an LGBT person. At the age of 34 years, I'm expected to marry and to have children. I have no wife. I'm not get married. My community won't push me. My dad or my parents have never pushed me to get married, and they are my security. What I mean my security is my mother will call me in the morning and call me in the evening because he understands the kind of work that I'm doing. Activism is very hectic. So if you doesn't have a support, then there you go. The next support that I'm having is my community members. As being an LGBT and being the executive director of NYARWEC, the staffs, the members, the board that are surrounding me to give that moral support, then they're also looking at it that I'm also doing something. In relations to being an activist is usually fighting for the rights and looking at it, how best are you portraying that rights? In that you're giving a life to the lifeless. You're giving an hope to the hopeless. So specifically, those are what rejuvenate me as an activist, because I know for whichever thing I talk, for whichever thing I'm doing, then I'm giving hope to the hopeless in Western Kenya. So it makes me keep on tire and tire and tire, although there are challenges because of our security. The community still doesn't accept us. You are doing this, you're quite worried, you're watching your steps, but since you're watching your steps, you cannot let the good until the day the victory will be an LGBT person in Kenya is liberal, is the day we will turn and say thank you. Now we'll drop our weapons and our instruments. But so long as we still have them, then your support as Denmark, your support in UK, your support in France, all those to Kenyan movement then gives hope. Those are what are rejuvenating us as activists, because we are feeling there's some people who are caring, there's some people who are looking at you that you're toiling too much, and they can also wipe your tears. Wipe your tears at the same time you wipe your sweat. So those are my support, but those are my rejuvenating moments as an activist.
On my side, there's this wonderful person I always talk to most of the time, preferably in the morning. I call him God. I tell him my story, and I ever believe that he answers me at some point, and he gives me energy to push through the day. I've also made myself to be my own source of strength, and what I know, I'm someone who's self-motivated, because I believe I've been brought up to believe that it is okay not to be okay in Kenya, because I'm facing as an LGBT person, as an LGBT leader, whatever I'm facing, if I don't accept it and move on at personal level, then I might break. So I give myself that strength. I encourage myself most of the time. We also give thanks to the community, those our beneficiaries, those who we serve. We appreciate their efforts, because we are always happy when things are going okay, or there are some steps which are being made. So our people are our source of strength. Eva?
Yes. Then the final question for you guys is from us here at Humanity in Action. If you had to give some sort of advice to young LGBT activists, what would it be?
What I can say specifically as giving an advice to the young LGBT is, I'm also young. Specifically, it's not easy, but the only thing we keep on trying and to make sure that we have hope. Hope in such a way that don't look at yourself and reduce your self-esteem, but usually build your self-esteem. And the most moment for you to build your self-esteem is look at your resilience. Mostly LGBT as individuals usually look at our vulnerable moments. Let's look at the resilience moment when I'm having my community around, when I'm having the psych to do something. Look at those and rely on those much. We have been looking at the vulnerable moment, and it's really tearing us apart and really making you to lose hope as an young LGBT person. But if you look at your resilience and concentrate on your resilience moment, then as an LGBT person, then the future is brighter for us. And we believe we'll be liberated in whichever across the world, because the discrimination for the stigma and discrimination for all young LGBTs across the world. So specifically is for us to look at the resilience, and let us not look at the vulnerability. Let us have the vulnerability of an LGBT persons to be a springboard for us to prosper and achieve what we need as young people. Yeah.
My advice to young activists, I'm also young, and I'm the youngest politician in this country who is yet to occupy a seat. So what I'll say is, as an activist, live knowing that you have other lives in your hands. There's some people who, when they see you, they see hope. You are the source of their strength. So whichever thing you are doing as an activist, know that there are some people who rely on you. And if you fail, if you allow yourself to fail, if you allow yourself to get tired, you've failed those who we are fighting for, including yourself.
Thanks, guys. Hi. This has been really something to think about, and it was a really good
You're not on air?
So I think
are you recording?
All of us should say thank you for tonight, and it's been really good. It was good to see you guys. You have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Say hi to everyone.
Bye.
Bye.